Yes. Okay, we'll bring the meeting to order, please. Bring the meeting to order. Prior to the open session, council met for a closed meeting. It was moved by Councillor Marshall and seconded by Councillor McCann that pursuant to Section 239(2) and 3 of the Municipal Act SO 2001 C25 as amended, Council of the Corporation of the Town of Parry Sound moved to a meeting closed to the public in order to address matters pertaining to C, a proposed or pending acquisition of land for municipal or local board purposes, a property purchase, E, litigation or potential litigation including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, property matter, and J, educating or training council members, and no member shall discuss or deal with any matter in any way that materially advances the business of council, potential national event. And that was carried. Is there any prioritization or additions to the agenda? No? Okay. May I have a mover and seconder for the agenda, please? Councillor McCann, Councillor Marshall, that the council agenda for June 5th, 2018 be approved as circulated. All in favor? That's carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none, may I have a mover and seconder for the minutes, please? Councillor Borneman, Councillor Horn. The minutes of the regular council meeting held May 15th, 2018 be approved as circulated. Are there any questions or discussion with regard to the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. Questions of staff? Councillor Marshall.
Yes. First question of the night for Mr. Brown. So I was driving over on Emily Street last week, seeing that Fowler Construction got the first lift of asphalt on Emily Street. Any kind of idea as far as for the public when this construction project is going to be wrapping up?
Through your worship, a couple of things. We are hoping that the contract is completed at the end of this month. That was their goal. That was their intent. I just found out this afternoon that the second lift of asphalt from the top of the hill down to the Fowler dock will be done tomorrow. And once that's done, then there will be a third lift of the whole road, including the section that was grinded up near Parry Sound Road, hopefully within the next week. The boulevard work is almost done. The driveways are almost done. After the third lift is done, then they'll be able to paint the road, and hopefully they'll be off site by the end of the month.
Good. Councillor Borneman and then Councillor McCann.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Brown, you and I have had a couple of conversations about this. I understand that we have minimum regulations, road standard regulations, and liability issues. I've had a number of folks speak to me with respect to sand, salt, gravel in front yards and boulevards and the difficulty they have maintaining the yards as a result. I'm not suggesting that we stop plowing roads or using gravel, but are there measures that we or members of the public can take to mitigate the damage that is done as a result?
Through your worship, every springtime, once the snow finally is gone, our summer students and our staff go out and endeavor to clean up the sand and material that's left behind from the winter in the boulevards, on the road allowance next to the curb and gutter. The areas that are engrassed, we have our summer students go and rake it out and hopefully get as much as they can off, and then they reseed it. It's the hazards of winter, I guess you can say, that we do have minimum maintenance standards that we have to ensure that are done, and we have to protect the public. In order to do that, we do use a significant amount of sand and salt to make sure that the roads are as safe as possible. As I say, though, we make every effort in the springtime to ensure that the boulevards are cleaned up as best we can. We have our street sweeper out early this year. They removed an awful lot of sand. We have our MadVac that's out as well that does its best to clean up some of the sand and gravel that's in the downtown area. But really at this time, there's really not much else we can do. The second we start reducing the amount of sand and salt, then it increases the risk to the public. And I'm really not prepared to do that.
Councillor McCann?
Thank you. For Mr. Brown once again. I understand that we had a train stoppage in town yesterday. Are you satisfied that the train company followed all of the procedures to let us know?
Through your worship, yes and no. I just happened to be in the lineup on Church Street when the arms went down, and the train made its way. The engine made its way halfway across Church Street and was an emergency stop. So I stood there. I sat there for about 5 minutes and then pulled over and talked to the engineer. And as I was doing that, CN called our emergency number, which is mine, and they let me know right away that there was a stoppage and that there was blocking two roads, Isabella and Church Street. So for that, kudos to them for letting us know. I let emergency dispatch know, and then I let Chief Thompson know right away. I asked them how long it was going to take, and they said no longer than an hour. Well, 2.5 hours later, we were still sitting there waiting for the arms to go up. The train was over a mile long, and they had to walk the whole thing to find what the problem was. Today, I don't know what the problem was, but they did eventually get the train moving about 4:15. That caused significant problems for the public and significant problems for potential problems for emergency services. So I will be in contact with CN to let them know that we're not satisfied. We are satisfied with the fact that they let us know, but we're not satisfied with the fact that they didn't break the train or get it moving sooner than later.
Thank you.
Any further questions of staff? Seeing none, correspondence, Ms. Boggs.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it's a very light correspondence. We had two newsletters from AMO, the AMO Watch Files, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. Those are sent out weekly. We got the one for May 17th and the one for May 24th, and their municipal industry newsletter from AMO, and it was circulated to Mayor and Council and forwarded to myself for the agenda.
Okay,
that's it.
Super, thank you. All right, we come to the deputations and presentations portions of tonight's council meeting. I'd like to remind the deputations here tonight that they have a maximum of 10 minutes each, including questions of clarification from council. Deputations are subject to the same rules of conduct as members of council, and that no one shall speak disrespectfully or use offensive words or insulting expressions against any member of council, staff, or another member of the public. And please speak clearly into the microphone and keep about 1 foot to 1.5 feet away. Our first deputation tonight is Edith Paulus, a resident. Welcome, Edith. Councilor Marshall, maybe you could help her with the...
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, I've been here in Parry Sound since October 2016. Blasting happened on Gibson Street next to the school to create a parking lot. After the blasting, I have everything just pointed. Stand-up sump pump working overtime because water gushing in from both sides. Left and right hose in sump pump water containing cut out basement. Sump pump stopped working during night of February 24th. Morrow's Plumbing removed all flood water downstairs. Morrow's came February 27, installed a ProFlow pump system. Water leaks into basement, May 2nd, called Gary to fix leak. Leaks continue from water pressure outside. And so on and so forth. I will go on to July, flood in basement after sump pump not working because of overload of water. Bay Area plumber. Flood water directed out onto street gully. July 10th, Bay Area end helper installation of top-notch submersible new sump pump. September, Bay Area plumber capped a hose because too much water gushing into sump pump hole. October 2nd, 17, called municipal offices Peter Brown, re-underground town pipe problem. October 10th, Weeks Contractors, Jason, 11:30 a.m., checking drenched, swampy backyard. By that time, it was not accessible anymore. You had to have boots right up to your knee. December 13, 17, plummet. John checked pump and water intake. Pump working almost constantly due to outside flooding. January 25th, 18, called blasting company, Sylvain, re-backyard flooding since town declined any responsibility. January the 26th, next day, Ashley, municipal offices, called, re-backyard. I called Sylvain asking him to come and investigate backyard situation. Jeremy came by during afternoon and took pictures, a helper of Sylvain. March 15, 18, first emotional counseling session due to too much stress and depression regarding feeling of helplessness, hopelessness, backyard flooding, no help whatsoever, continuing counseling. April 6, called Remax Realtor Holly Cascanet, reason I want to sell but can't due to backyard flooding. April 11, Jamie, Waste Management came by, die into some pump water hole. Result, Bay Area piping wrong. Water directed into sewage street catch basin. Town does nothing. Notify Bay Area, nothing, nothing. Although this situation is against the law. April 19th, called and left message for Jamie. April 20th, Jamie's message, infrastructure study to be done this year sometime. I should not worry about some pump water directed wrong way. April 23, 18, called Norm Miller's office, but they are not in touch with this stuff. April 23, called also lawyer re-backyard. April 24, Ron Thornton Landscaping Company, checks backyard, is stunned by what he sees. May 1st, 18, left serious message for Peter Brown to check out my backyard, to come. Also my neighbor Tammy's and Al's. Both backyards now have my flood water in their backyards. 3 p.m., Bob Mans called, responsibility put on to non-profit housing, which hired CVG Blasting Company, Sylvain. May 2nd, 18, Sylvain and several other guys to check backyards. Result, responsibility put back onto old town infrastructure, worn out piping underground. 12 noon, I talked personally with Peter Brown. Same story, private property, no responsibility for anything. May 3, 18, Ed from Adams Brothers checked out backyard after I called. Estimate, $5,000 and up. May 14th, called Adams Brothers for a 5th time to do something about backyard, no response. May 16, private professional friends dug down, exposing broken water pipe. Photos available. May 28th, after trench filled up with water again, although recent pipe repair, more digging in a different direction resulted in finding yet another pipe broken. Repair $500 and another $550. So additional detrimental facts summarizing the nightmare ongoing since the blasting. Town of Parry Sound apparently has no plans regarding underground infrastructure running down Gibson Street. No plans. Town suggested it was my problem as a private backyard owner to look after the issue. I never accepted the suggestion. My point, also legally discussed by me with an out-of-town lawyer, is I have no responsibility for town equipment such as pipes, which were put underground in the 50s, 60s. If it could have been my equipment, then yes, and only then my equipment put under there. Town suggested to get in touch with Low-Income Housing Corporation, who had hired blasting company, which I did. blasting company put responsibility for broken super old piping squarely back onto town responsibility. The responsibility issue has not been accepted by the town nor the blasting company, and most certainly not by me. I'm legally backed up fully, but want to move away from Parry Sound immediately after all I had to endure. I have pictures, and it's a travesty. It's just unbelievable. I have talked to a lot of people, different people from different occupations, and including lawyer, and basically, I'm just beyond, because no, there's a hopelessness, a helplessness, a feeling of stuck. I'm stuck here now, and yes, it's finally been dug up by some private friends, and so they found the one pipe, and that was broken, and then water came into the trench again, and then they found another pipe that was also broken. So this is the town infrastructure has nothing to do with me. I have not put that equipment down there.
Can we have a copy of your deputation and the pictures, please?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Whom do I give it to?
Just
I have
Councilor Marshall there.
a handicap at my foot, so I'm
No.
just gonna,
Yeah.
this is all that, and
And
this is mine.
Councilor Marshall can give that to the clerk here, and so that we have a copy of all that. Are there any questions from council members of Mrs. Paulus? Councilor Borneman and then Councilor Keith.
94 Gibson Street. And you might as well write down 92 and 90 Gibson Street also had the flood going down that way.
Councilor Keith, you had your hand up.
Yes, madam. Can you advise those photos that were taken, are they all dated so one can see the pictures, the dates on those photos?
I think, I'm not sure now, but I think some are dated, and I think they are. I'm not sure if all are dated, but I think most of them are dated.
Were they taken by you, or who were they taken?
Yeah, by me. They were taken by me. And also Sylvain from CVG or whatever that company is, the blasting company, they also took pictures.
So, just so you know, the only dates that I can see on some of these are on the back, and they're
Yeah.
2011.
No,
Which
that
can't-
cannot be
which can't be.
2011, because I wasn't even up here.
Yeah. So, it must be just the paper. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. So I don't see any dates on any of them, but that's fine.
Okay, so there is the
That's
digging.
fine. That's fine.
Whatever.
Did you have anything else, Councilor Keith, on that one? No? Councilor McCann?
You can see the backyard all flooded.
Yeah.
Thank you. Maybe Mr. Brown can help me with this question.
Actually,
You can't?
during this sort of thing, we don't ask questions of staff.
Okay.
You just have questions for the person
Okay.
making the deputation.
So the pipes that you found that were broken, are they on your property beneath the surface then? Are those the ones that you're alluding to?
I'm sorry?
So the pipes that you found that were broken,
Yeah.
are they on your property?
Yeah, they are in the backyard.
And it's old town infrastructure that you've come across?
That's what Sylvain absolutely did say. Those are very old pipes. I was asking Mr. Brown, I believe I was asking him, or he did say to me, we don't have any plans where the pipes run and that sort of thing. But yeah.
I know
Yeah.
that there's an awful lot of old infrastructure in the ground, and it comes up in various times.
Councillor Horn.
Thank you for your presentation. Before the blasting began, did the blasting company come to your property and take any pictures inside or outside of your house?
No, they did not.
No? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bornman.
Just for the record, the water and sewer pipes in Gibson Street were replaced within the past 15 years, so town infrastructure there is not greatly aged. It was done from Isabella to Mary Street, so the pipes in that particular area are relatively new.
We are talking the back pipe going from up Gibson. Gibson runs down towards the CN, and from up there, that is the old infrastructure, not the new one that I have been informed that there was something done. That's the street, the Gibson Street thing.
Okay. So our time's pretty much up.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you very much for your deputation, and I want to thank you for bringing this forward. Now we have pictures and the information, and we'll have a conversation with staff about this. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Will I hear from anybody
At some point, yes, you will.
at some point?
I can't say exactly when that's going to be because we have a full agenda tonight,
Okay.
and we need to ask some questions, and this needs to be circulated to council
Okay.
so they can see. Yeah.
Okay, it's just that I will
I understand.
put my house up for sale.
Okay, thank you. Our next deputation is Daryl McMurray, Downtown Business Association. Welcome, Mr. McMurray.
Thank you. I will be quick. Good evening, Your Worship and Councillors. I'm Daryl McMurray. I'm accompanied by Susan Hersina, speaking tonight on behalf of the Downtown Businesses Association. We're here to bring you an update on the progress of the DBA's initiative to create and develop a brand new strategic plan for the Downtown Businesses Association. With the generous assistance of this council, our board was able to retain the services of Kay Matthews of the Ontario BIA Association and Patty Hayes of Page by Page Consulting in the creation of this new plan. The overall process included board engagement surveys, online stakeholder surveys, one-on-one community stakeholder interviews, BIA governance training for our board of directors, and finally, an in-person strategic planning session with board members and designates. This planning session was held on January 22nd with representation from the DBA board, the Town of Parry Sound staff and council, the Downtown Steering Committee, and the Chamber of Commerce. It was a long but ultimately rewarding creative process in which we were able to openly discuss all factors affecting the downtown currently and in the foreseeable future. This facilitated process over the course of many hours resulted in the identification of 5 focused priorities, which are to be filtered through one creative and carefully constructed vision statement. That statement is, to be the wildly civilized Georgian Bay downtown that turns your wealth of experiences into amazing memories. And the 5 identified priorities, focus priorities were marketing, events, beautification, communications, and business retention and expansion, or essentially managing the vacancies in the downtown. These elements, along with detailed actions and supporting information, were then provided to the DBA in a final working document, our strategic plan. At our April 11th DBA board meeting, the board officially adopted this strategic plan and are now entering a transitional phase from our current working plan. As part of that transition, we have already established a new events committee with 9 members, as well as a beautification committee with 7 members. Our marketing and communication committees will be established and begin meeting over the next few months. And we are also undergoing a significant redevelopment of the DBA's website to bring it technologically up to date and make it more accessible for members and patrons to interact with. On behalf of the DBA, we would like to thank you again for your continued support in these efforts, and I look forward to updating you on our continued progress and success. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Oh, Councilor Horn.
Thank you for your presentation. Where can the public view the strategic plan as a whole?
I believe that the council in general has,
It's on the website.
it hasn't been posted on our website yet because we had
Okay.
just adopted it, but we will be posting it shortly on the existing website, and of course, it'll be moved to the new one.
Very good. Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next deputation is Chris McDonald and Aaron Cardy. Welcome.
Back again. Thank you. Good evening, Town Council and Mayor McGarvey. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to speak to you once again on behalf of the Sound Splash Pad Steering Committee. We are here tonight eagerly awaiting and hoping you will make the much anticipated decision of formally designating Wabno Beach as a future home to Sound Splash Pad. While this commitment doesn't mean the project will begin tomorrow, it does take us one step closer in making it a reality. We hope you are all in agreement in principle that if the facts and figures we provided all line up and our costs are accurate, make sense, you can get behind this development so we can roll up our sleeves and get back to work. We have been working very hard over the past 12 months to make this dream a reality, and tonight we come in numbers to show you how deeply this endeavor has touched the community. A lot of personal time, energy, and money has been spent in getting us to this point. The amount of support we have garnered over the months has been overwhelming. From local residents and businesses spending money on our Buy a Brick fundraising campaign, to local service clubs such as Rotary Club, Optimist Club, and Kinsman Club, all willing to offer letters of support and financial support as well. Media coverage from the local newspaper and radio stations has helped keep the momentum rolling, as well as our close to 900 members Facebook group. We've had local tradespeople offering their services for anything from site preparation, concrete work, plumbing, media, and print ads, the list goes on. These people could save the project tens of thousands of dollars by keeping the work local and employing local residents during the construction of this facility. We also have support from within town office. I quote April McNamara's report and recommendation for town council. Planning, public works, and parks have already met internally and are all supportive of a splash pad being located at Wabno Beach. Public Works has confirmed that during the reconstruction of Prospect Street, a physical stub will be built into the plan to accommodate future water sewer lateral service to the proposed new amenity. Tonight, we respectfully ask that a decision be made on two things: to formally designate Wabno Beach as a future home of Sound Splash Pad, to give town staff the go-ahead to begin investigating all forms of potential funding streams and grant applications to cover capital cost and development expense. We feel timing is now critical as the deadline for various grants are fast approaching. None of these applications can be made without a designated property. Rotary Club of Parry Sound is considering a $5,000 grant in addition to their $10,000 commitment already. Deadline is June 30th. Trillium Capital Grant application deadline is August 15th. Trillium has contributed hundreds of thousands of dollars for splash pad developments all over Ontario and would be a huge boost financially in covering the capital cost of construction. Canadian Tire Jumpstart deadline was May 1st, a deadline we missed this year since our request was deferred in March. But however, Jumpstart offers up to $50,000 in assistance. We can revisit this application again next year. We feel any further delays will be a huge setback as deadlines and application windows are closing for 2018. One of the most important things we are striving for here is something new and exciting to offer our kids and families. Something that is free to the user and accommodates all walks of life, all levels of income, all ages and abilities, and most importantly, a facility that is fully accessible to everyone. We all want to promote active living and healthy lifestyle indoors and outdoors for our children. It is estimated that over 60% of the children in this area are from low-income families. This would be free for them to use every day that it's open. Sure, it may only run 4 months of the year, but there are many other seasonal facilities as well, such as soccer fields, baseball fields, parks and playgrounds, tennis courts, golf courses, and so on that are seasonal also, and we still love and support them all. Why should an additional amenity such as a splash pad in an existing park be any different? We only have to look as far as Aurelia to see the impact these splash pads are having. Aurelia now has 5. They obviously weren't all built in the same time, which indicates high demand and continued use, and deemed them a viable and popular part of their community, revitalizing rarely frequented playgrounds. Our vision has always been an outdoor water park, a tourist attraction offering 20 to 30 features, from in-ground jet sprayers to overhead dumping buckets. Bright, colorful, and exciting. A facility that will keep locals close to home and not traveling to surrounding municipalities to spend their money. We feel it will be a drawing card and bring more traffic through town during the months of operation. A social hub for residents and tourists alike. While there has been a lot of talk about merging a potential pool complex and splash pad together under one roof, this is not the vision of the splash pad we have in mind. Most indoor pads with pools are small and only offer a few features and are not free to the user. We fully support the pool complex initiative and hope that it does happen so they can incorporate a small pocket pad within. However, we want the sound splash pad facility on its own to have its own identity, and this could potentially happen within 12 months, whereas a pool complex will take many years to come to fruition, if at all. We also feel the two projects are not in competition with each other, nor are they vying for the same funding and grants. Both are on two completely different timelines. There should not be a conflict of interest. One of the biggest concerns we've heard over the past year has been ongoing operating costs and upkeep. We've done a lot of research ourselves, as has April at town office, to determine roughly what the yearly operating cost of this facility would be to the taxpayer. Based on the size and features of the splash pad, taking into account usage and water being regulated by timers and sequences, comparing a similar size facilities in surrounding municipalities, we can safely say that the yearly operating cost would be between $22,000 and $25,000. We even have the ability to cap the cost and fine-tune the system to make sure the budget is not overshot. Any questions regarding specific costs and water systems can be referred to Sean Goodyear from ABC Recreation, one of the companies that has supplied us a layout design quote and wealth of information. Based on a brief investigation of public records found on the Town of Parry Sound website, Parks and Recreation have typically had a surplus of funds every year for the past 5 years on average of around $80,000. While this unspent money doesn't go to waste and is allocated into future reserve funds for capital expenditures, we feel there is room within the budget to allow for the operation of the splash pad at Wabano Beach with a minimal impact to the taxpayer. So our question is, if getting the funding into place to build is not the problem, finding the money in the budget is not the problem, what's holding us back? It's time for Parry Sound to move forward. Thank you for your time and consideration. Please let us have a fair shot at seeing this through. We have a couple Rotarians here to lend support on our behalf of their club tonight, so I'll turn the floor over to them. Please welcome Mr. Ray Pavlov and Mr. Tom Traversy.
Member Garvey and Town Council, my name is Tom Traversy. I am a past president of the Rotary Club of Parry Sound.
Just so you know, part of this deputation, there's 3 minutes left, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I won't repeat some of the things that Chris has already repeated. But whenever Rotary supports a cause, we look for the benefits to the individuals and to the community. And in doing so, they must follow the four-way test, and that is that the truth, is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships, and will it be beneficial to all concerned? Projects such as the Rotary Algonquin Trail, the hospital, the Stocky Center, Bobby Orr Community Center, Rose Point Trail, and the food bank certainly meet these guidelines. Our newest project that we're supporting is a splash pad. This endeavor not only meets but exceeds this four-way test. It will be inclusive for every child regardless of disabilities, gender, or economics. In addition, parents with disabilities are able to watch their child from the sidelines without any obstruction. It is proven fact that this type of environment for children promotes the social interaction for both the children and the parents, and it develops social skills. For children with a fear of water, swimming, It's a great way to introduce them and allow them to enjoy water without going into the lake or a pool, and hopefully helps them to overcome their fears. The splash pad will provide a free summer activity rather than looking at their TV or their phones. I believe I'll end it there. One quick point is that I think that council, rather than asking that the committee justify their means, that they should be looking at ways to help them. I think it promotes the community and it promotes the town. I'd like to thank a big thank you on behalf of the Rotary Club to Chris and his committee for their dedication, their hard work, and for their due diligence in making the splash pad a reality. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Ray Pavlov, Mayor McGarvey, Council. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to speak in support of the splash pad in Parry Sound. And a special thanks to Chris and Aaron for your vision, initiative, and perseverance in promoting the building of a splash pad. Having visited splash pads in other communities with our children and grandchildren, I can vouch for their value to any community summer activity. I'm going to speak about the great role volunteers play in our community. It is volunteers who care enough to make good things happen. Think of the service volunteers have given and continue to give to the Westbury Sound Health Center, hospice, fire departments, schools, churches, all sports organizations, minor hockey, figure skating, soccer, bowling, curling, dance, the rack tournament, dragon boat, and other countless fundraising activities. The list is endless. Where would our community be without these volunteers? Today, Council dedicated Wink's Link in recognition of the spirit and dedication Wendell Fisher gave to the community active transportation. His volunteer spirit lives on. I believe we as citizens and you as council have a responsibility to support volunteers when good ideas come forward. I believe the question we should all ask is, how can we make good things happen? Volunteers don't need bureaucracy, stalling, or hoops to jump through. For the most part, volunteer motives are honorable and just. They just want to make things better for our community and those who live here and for those who visit. Chris and Aaron and the Splash Pad Committee just want to make our community better, and they deserve your support. From what I understand, as Chris has explained, they did due diligence with regard to capital cost operations and maintenance. And for them, we thank them for their detailed presentation earlier this evening. With council support, a splash pad can happen in Parry Sound. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any quick questions? No? Okay, thank you. Our last deputation is Nora Alexander. Nora, welcome.
Mayor McGarvey and Council, my name is Nora Alexander, and this is my husband, Roger Alexander. We are Parry Sound ratepayers here to discuss the proposed splash pad. We have something in common with the people who presented their splash pad deputation this evening. We are also dedicated citizens, passionate about our community, and we share with them a love for our natural surroundings and affection for our town. We do, however, strongly feel that a splash pad is a short-sighted solution to the needs of our community. We present you with a petition signed by 70 people urging you not to install a splash pad. I presented this petition to a random sample of people in Parry Sound, and after explaining the subsequent argument, over 90% immediately agreed to endorse it. The few people who didn't sign also did not want a splash pad, but they were afraid something really bad would happen to them if they put their signature on paper. I also could have done more work if it hadn't taken so long. People entered into lengthy discussions on this topic. So, on behalf of the 70 names on our petition, I present the reasons for our opposition. Our community needs long-term vision when planning for new facilities and services. We already have too many separate facilities supported by a limited tax base. The concept of an age-friendly community where the health and participation of residents aged 5 to 105 are considered requires long-term strategic planning. $270,000, the projected cost of the splash pad, and its projected annual maintenance of $25,000 is too expensive for a feature that will be used by a very limited number of people, ages 3 to 8 approximately, for only at most 3 or 4 months of the year. The future of our age-friendly community would include plans for a pool complex that serves all ages for 12 months of the year. A splash pad is used in the summer. Parry Sound already does summer pretty well. What residents really need is an indoor public pool complex that can also be utilized in the winter months. Council, if you spend the money and expend the political capital on this project, then we fear we will never see a pool complex, recreation, or wellness center. To grow and prosper, our long-term vision needs to consider how to attract people like doctors to live in and not just visit our community. A pool complex is an attractive feature for families, especially those with children, considering living in our community. A splash pad is not enough of an attraction to persuade people to locate here. Our Wabano Beach is a natural, beautiful attraction with blue flag designation. The blue flag raised at our beach certifies that the water is clean and safe for swimming, that the area is sustainably and responsibly managed, and that the shoreline and the ecosystem are constantly being protected. Installing a human-made concrete splash pad will make our blue flag beach ugly and unnatural. Our presentation includes a photo of a splash pad on a beach. It is not attractive. Incidentally, this photo was taken on a warm August Saturday. The splash pad was not being used, nor was it turned on. A splash pad will also mix treated chlorinated water with our freshwater ecosystem, and we will lose much of our natural sandy beach to an unnatural structure. Tourists seek out beaches that display a blue flag, and our long-term vision for our community must ensure that this certification is maintained. A splash pad requires expensive maintenance. The estimated cost of $25,000, of which the details have not been made available, will rise as the structure ages. Since admission cannot be charged, residents from neighboring municipalities will be allowed to use it for free, but it is the Parry Sound ratepayers that will have to pay for the ongoing associated costs. With a limited tax base, we cannot afford to support a feature that is used by a small demographic for a few months. Splash pads rightly exist in cities without accessible beaches and clean water in which to swim. Wabano Beach is a natural splash pad. Why would we build a fake splash pad? Finally, we respectfully request your worship and council that you look to the future when deliberating this topic. Encourage all parties to channel their energy, enthusiasm, and passion into one common goal of a future pool complex for our region. This could include a splash pad or other water play area for children and share the related infrastructure. The town of Parry Sound and the surrounding municipalities need a long-term vision. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Keith.
Yes, Ms. Alexander, can you advise me where that photo is of the splash pad?
Right, so thank you, Councillor Keith. I have given it to Jackie, and hopefully,
No, I mean the location.
oh, where the location is, sorry. It's Sundridge.
Okay. Any further questions? No? Okay, thank you very much for your presentation.
You're welcome.
And I believe we've got a copy of everything that
Yes,
you
you do.
brought forward. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Council has a decision if they want to make. We can move this item forward and deal with it instead of belaboring it. So I will ask all members of council in favor of moving this forward. Okay. It's item 922, and if we're gonna deal with it now, I have to declare a conflict. The Rotary Club of Parry Sound has a letter of support and proposed funding in support of this splash pad, and as a Rotary member, this has put me in a very ethical conflict. So I have to remove myself from the discussion. And Councillor Keith will take the chair.
Be a tie. Something's personal. Okay. So this is one that was done forward again to this meeting. Okay, so we are I had supported this, so we'll need a new mover and seconder.
Well, we'll need a new mover,
Mhm.
because you're taking the chair.
Yes. So I've taken the chair, and this matter had been before council previously on March 20th, 2018. So it looks like we're going to need a new person to move that council designates space at Wabano Beach for future development of a splash pad as identified on attachment number 1. I had originally moved this, and it was seconded by Brad Horn, so we'll need somebody new to move this. Okay, so that's Doug McCann is going to move it forward. Okay then, so we're open for discussion. So, Doug, Councillor
Okay, thank you.
McCann?
I had a couple of questions. One of the oppositions, I guess, to the project was that there could be wouldn't be good for the environment. I was wondering, the water that goes through the sprays, is it recirculated? Can I ask somebody
Who are you directing that question to?
I guess Ms. McNamara would
McNamara?
be good. So I guess I'm asking, would the water that's in the system, would it be special water that would just recirculate? Is there chlorine in the water, or what happens there?
If I may, through you, Your Worship, it all depends on the type of splash pad that's installed. We're not at that stage yet. There are many different types of systems that can be installed. That is but one.
Thank you.
Any other queries? Yes, Councillor Borneman?
Do we have any idea at all at this point, Ms. McNamara, whether this would or would not impact on the blue flag designation at Wabano?
If I may, through you, Mayor, at this point, I am not aware of it conflicting or putting the blue flag in jeopardy. Blue flag is about not only environmental conditions, water quality, programming. There are many aspects to it, and I don't see this jeopardizing that.
Yes, there, Councillor
Since we have Ms. McNamara up, might as well just keep with the questions. Has anybody talked to, did a little bit of just looking here on the computer about this splash pad in Sundridge. Has anybody at the town level had any discussion with the municipality there as far as maintenance, how much it's being used? It's a very small municipality. I think it's about fifth the size of Parry Sound. What are they saying about it?
If I may, through you, Your Worship. Great question, Councillor Marshall. I've been trying to get in touch with the staff party that's responsible for that system. Sundridge is a very small municipality. The people in that municipality, similar to our own, they wear many hats. I did finally nail somebody down earlier today. We're playing phone tag at this point in time. I do have cost and usage from a few other municipalities, from a few other of my colleagues, and those are presented in the report this evening.
Thank you. Any other queries? Councillor Horn?
Just a question, I think it's probably directed towards Mr. Brown. In terms of infrastructure at that particular location, do you have any idea what is needed for the splash pad to become operational?
Through your worship, April and I have been talking quite a bit about this. Presently, there's no infrastructure in that location. There's no water or wastewater to that location, so there would have to be pipes installed from that location up to, I guess you could say, to the entrance of the parking lot on Prospect Street, where we're putting a new water and wastewater system there. But also just remember that because of the location, you will have to pump your wastewater to that location. So a pump will have to be installed, or some sort of pumping system would have to be installed to Prospect Street to push the wastewater up there. Right now, there is nothing there at present.
Councillor Saunier?
So we don't have, is that built into the costing of what they've presented forward, or do we have an idea of what some of that piping and costing would be? Two parts to this question.
Your Worship, I'm not aware of the costing. I haven't costed it out yet. I don't know how big a pipe they're going to need, how big a pump they're going to need. So I'm not aware of the cost, and I'm not sure if the report had included all the actual costs involved, which is, including running the pipes across the parking lot, putting hydro there, all that kind of thing.
Yes, Mr. Mins? Oh, I apologize.
My second question then, and sorry, my second question is about water credits available. So we have a limited amount of water credits available at the water treatment plant. As far as future development, each time we want to build a house, water credits are spent. So how many water credits would a facility like this absorb, taking it out from future developments of Parry Sound as far as homes or businesses of that nature?
If I may, through you, Your Worship, it all depends on the type of system that is spec'd out. As Chris was alluding to in his deputation this evening, we're not at that stage yet where we spec'd a system out. So it is unknown at this point in time.
So just to finish off with that, we've all asked a whole bunch of questions tonight, and I haven't heard an answer to one of them. Any of it. And that concerns me. You want me to give you this thing, and I want this thing to be given to you, but I need answers. There are so many things left up in the air that you want answers to. I need those answers to give you the yes or the no. Where's the costing? The final price, where is it?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. So to your first question, Councillor Saunier, I believe it is safe to say, and somebody else could come forward to say, that those additional costs that you're referring to that Mr. Brown was talking about, the infrastructure servicing costs from the facility to where the services are now, are not included in the cost. Whatever those costs are, they're not spec'd out. And at this point, how far a decision leads you to a final decision of approval, at this point, the committee is looking for approval of a location without asking for a final commitment of dollars through at this point, likely the 2019 operating budget or the 2019 capital budget. It's just on location. So it's not a final and firm decision, it's just on location.
So further to your discussion, Mr. Menz, so tonight, obviously the committee is looking for the land use from us to move forward with their applications. Suffice to say, if we pass a resolution for designating that space, it's not committing us to a final decision for funding. It's only the space, so they can go forward with applications, correct?
Councillor McCann.
Thank you. Yes, I agree with Councillor Horn and with what Mr. Menz had talked about. I think we need to at least say this area is available to you so that they can move forward to find out what it is that they have for funding. But I would like council to have some opportunity to speak. You know, if something comes up that we don't like what it does to the environment, I think that we at least need to let them go ahead and discover what they can do and hopefully come back with some of the answers that we're all looking for.
Councillor Borneman.
So, based on the discussion that's been happening, let's for a second assume that council determines that we are going to move ahead here tonight. I assume, Mr. Menz, that the next step would then be to finalize the design and the costing of this. You know, because there are a bunch of things, as Councillor Sonley points out, that are unknowns here tonight. It might be twice the operational cost, it may be half of the operational cost. We don't know that, depending on what comes out of this. So am I correct in making that assumption that it would then come back to council to make a determination whether or not, because we only get so many cracks at the can in applying for Trillium grants and whatnot as a community. We don't get to apply for 6 or 7 or 8 projects. We get generally one per year, as I understand it. So would it come back here before those next efforts were made?
Mr. Menz?
Through you. Yes, it will definitely come back before Mayor and Council. There were some good points raised on what the full actual cost is, the details of the operation, impacts on wastewater and water plant facilities. They're very important questions. Those questions need to be answered, I believe, before council can make a decision. This would obviously fit into the 2019 budget deliberations. We have a new council coming in. You're going to be dealing with the budget schedule a little bit later this evening. At some point, the splash pad, if not before, it is going to be on that first budget proposal that you're going to look at. What information is available? Council will recall how quickly we got through the budget process this past year. So realistically, I believe you're going to need the information soon at or around year end, all of the information in order to make a decision, because in February, I believe, you'll be approving the budget, all going well. It's a pretty tight time schedule for everything to come together, but that is at the latest when you would be making a decision, as I see it.
I'd like somebody to take the chair, so I may make a comment, please. Okay. Councillor McCann. I would just like to say that, first of all, I really appreciate all the hard effort of grassroots ideas and the support that's come out with how we can all come together as a community to make this work. However, I also am concerned that as a council and as a community, I think we all as citizens want to make sure that whatever monies we use, and as mentioned, in respect to the budget, that we are handling it in a responsible manner. And I think one of the other areas that I missed hearing about tonight, so I can appreciate Councillor Saulnier's comment, it had to do, again, when we're looking at costs, and this is why I think we need a thorough report from our operations department, the public works. When we're looking at costs, I didn't hear any comments about, for example, showers. If you're going to use a splash pad, the users of those splash pads, from the research I've done, certainly it would be good that you're using a shower before you use the splash pad, because again, we don't want to have issues where people have health problems afterwards. So therefore, I have to say the showers that we have in, like the room or the building that we have down at the beach, it doesn't appear to have showers to me. So we need to have like proper hot and cold showers. So where's the cost for that? Where's the cost for the chlorination? So I think that we just need a few more costs before we can really get committed to it. Although besides that, I would like to hear from Mr. Menz if he can tell me if this was approved tonight and then we're still waiting for more information, but the location was designated, if it turned out in the worst scenario that it's just cost prohibited, can that location later on be used for something else, or are we committed forever to that, Mr. Menz?
To you and through you, no, you're not committed. Council wouldn't be committed, in my opinion. It's a decision of the day based on conditions, really. So when it comes before council, and if you have new people, as I expect, you're going to have at least 2 new people on council, from what I understand. Who knows what how the dynamic changes? There's nothing stopping for a whole other decision to be made. And I think it's been mentioned, but I think what is also very important is the pool and wellness complex, that there are active discussions underway with all of the area municipalities and 2 First Nations. And in my 21 years here, I have never seen such hopeful talks on the reality of a pool. So I think the new council comes in, it's going to be, the new council is going to be looking at a lot of cost issues, frankly, and weighing one against the other. It will be the new council's ultimate decision what this new, if the new pool wellness complex comes together, it will be a significant cost. And there will be other major costs that council is aware of already, that from a very strategic perspective that you're going to be faced with, that the new council will be faced with.
I would like to keep the momentum going. I know the group has done an awful lot of homework, and I don't think we have anything to lose tonight by at least saying, look, this area is available. Let's continue forward. Council has the right to disprove of something we think is going to be too costly down the road. They're investigating this. They can't go to Trillium without having some land designated. I don't see that we have anything to lose at this point by saying, here's the land. And they may come up with a lot of money that, that we didn't expect them to. I think we should just move forward with this tonight. I'd like to keep the momentum going.
Ms. McNamara?
If I may, if council were to designate a location tonight and direct staff to work with this committee, we can get firm costs in front of you. We don't have firm costs. Firm costs are not provided in this report tonight because a decision has not been solidified on what type of park we're after, what type of features we're after. If we are permitted some time, we can go back, do some more homework. I can work with the Public Works Department, and we can determine further costs for these operational and ongoing. Costs, as again, were not mentioned in the report. A decision has not been made on what type of park they're after, and that be it.
Are there any other comments or any resolution here? Yes, Councillor Borneman.
Well, this takes me back about 30 years or more ago to building ballparks and such in Parry Sound. I suspect that's probably a good reason why I'm here in the first place. At the time, it was a group such as the Splash Pad organization, almost totally independent of the town, who undertook to build Kinsman Park, the original one, and it resulted, when the highway went through, in the facility that we now have. I think that, I'm pretty sure at the time that the mayor and council, the administration of the day, didn't think it made any sense that we were doing this. I'm not sure that this is entirely logical yet. It's partway thought through, but it's not quite where things normally happen here. But I think to stifle that energy and that grassroots activity is not a good thing in a community. I think you know, I understand concerns that people might have, but at the same time, I think there are very few folks who muster up the ambition to actually move forward on something like this. And you know, I think it would not be a good message to say that we're not supportive of it in the long run.
So is there any other fresh ideas? If not, I think it's time that we got to a vote. Okay, so I'll read it out again. That moved by Councillor McCann and seconded by Councillor Horn, that council designate space at Wabano Beach for future development of a splash pad as identified on attachment number 1. All those in favor? Well, carried, that's solved. So there be it. So I guess it's good luck and thank you for coming out tonight. Okay.
If you'd like to stay and hear about how we got some exciting software coming for the budget that links up the Excel spreadsheets, it's fantastic reading. Anyone?
It's Jamie.
Oh, we better go get him, eh?
You think you'd see the people?
I totally did.
Unanimously approved.
Okay, well, there you go.
Too many people to say no to.
Host, yeah.
Yeah.
Host.
Okay.
So I'll have to redo that.
Hmm?
I'll have to redo that.
Okay,
This,
so
yeah, so.
you got 922.
No,
So it'd be
because we
9,
have-
9
This was
1.
moved forward, remember? So the
We'll carry on, and we'll start with Councillor Keith and your report tonight.
Okay, I'll make it kind of short. And that would be, first of all, I attended the 100th anniversary of the CNIB. They were really, there was a variety of people there explaining the different assistant devices to help people, and I found also, just to show you, get you have a better appreciation of what it's like to have a visual impairment. They even had something like different types of glasses that you could put on to give you a better idea of different sorts of illnesses that you would hope you never are stricken with, but it can certainly give you a much better idea so you can understand how difficult it is at times to cope, and you can actually relate a little bit better to it. I want to thank Betty McDowell for getting on my tail and advising me that they were there, and I was certainly appreciative of that. And then as a bonus, I got to eat some cake, so that was okay because I got my lunch at the same time. That was the extra. I should also say I attended the 8 to 80s meeting in the past month. I know there's a matter regarding on the agenda tonight regarding the fitness trail. Some of the members were concerned about some repairs of the infrastructure there, and I'll speak further about it when we get to that. Planning board, I attended the planning board meeting. There was, I believe, 5 applications approved. The financial statements were approved, as well as the audited financial statements for 2017. And the last meeting I attended was the provincial offenses meeting, which was held out in Dunchurch. And the various partners were there, and they were able to meet the new provincial offenses manager, Andre Couture. And he was quite open and with them, and they seemed to have really appreciated his explanation of the final quarter of last year and first quarter of this year. The bottom line is, all over, it seems that the number of fines, for example, are going down. However, it's to be said that it's not just in the Parry Sound District. It seems to be throughout the province. There seems to be less fines occurring, and therefore, if everybody's reaping the benefits as partners, municipalities, there's less money, of course, to be divvied up. So that was about it, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Keith. Councillor Marshall.
Well, I had a really long report, but everybody left, so I'll go with the short report instead. Good evening, everybody. May 24th, I chaired a regular meeting of the West Parry Sound Museum Board. Last Wednesday, May 30th, I attended a regular meeting of the Waterfront Advisory Committee. Joining our Councillor Borneman was with us as well. We did our annual walk along parts of the fitness trail. Every year we've got a section and we walk along it for about a kilometer, come back with ideas, identifying potential projects, trouble spots along the trail. So this year we had about a 34-degree day. We went out, it was very, very hot, unlike today. So anyways, we had we found a lot of spots along there, some suggestions coming up for the committee. And this morning I had the pleasure of attending the official trail sign unveiling and the opening of the Wink Link community path. Trail was named in honor of Wink Fisher in recognition of his contribution to active transportation and in the town of Parry Sound. He was a very spirited, tenacious person, so I think it was a very fitting tribute to Wink, naming the trail after him. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Borneman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, those of you who are left and those at home. Yes, I apologize for missing this morning's unveiling of the Wink's Link. I was at the airport, but I do think that's a really powerful acknowledgement of his work. And I was particularly happy to hear of Mayor Robinson's announcement about paved shoulders on parts of Highway 124. I think that just adds to the situation. So I have attended a number of meetings at the airport. The Milford Bay Trout Farm building is nearing completion. Water quality is a pain out there. It's a drilled well and the iron content is too high, and I'm not just sure how we're going to rectify that at this point. Cafe and fuel sales are both up due to the good weather. A number of people are doing more than kicking tires with respect to further business expansion there. We accepted the 2017 financial audits, which demonstrated the airport's revenue or reserves are largely depleted because of overruns on Phase 7 and the replacement of a roof on another building that we own. May 28th, our ad hoc committee regarding the snowbirds met. Plans are coming together. I think if you listen to the local radio and watch social media, there's a great effort of spreading the word with respect to the event. I want to thank our staff, Mr. Menz, Mr. Thompson, Ann Herdman, April McNamara, and Brad Weiler, for the efforts that they've put into this. It's amazing the work that they've done. And I guess I'd be remiss not to mention Mr. Thompson's counterpart in Seguin, Don Hood, who's been a great resource for us as well. Ms. Herdman sent me an email this afternoon reminding me to advise the public that the prime viewing area for the show will be at the salt docks. There will be no parking at the salt docks or the town's water treatment plant. You will be able to view the show anywhere along the fitness trail from the Stocky Center to some place north of the salt docks, but you should be prepared to park and walk to where you choose to view the show. There will be no boats allowed in the box in the channel where the show is taking place. Moose will be broadcasting the event live, so you can tune in on your radio and hear what's happening as we go along. So yes, we took our walk on one of the 2 days of the summer of 2018 on May 30th along the Waterfront Trail. I reported to Mr. Brown situation with respect to the oil dock. I want to thank him and the Public Works Department for reacting in a very timely fashion and removing part of the dock so the public can no longer access it. It was, I think, a danger to all. I think just in preparation, Mr. Brown, your good deed there isn't going to be too well served. I'm sure one of the things that will be coming back from the committee is requesting that the town develop some sort of management plan for the Japanese knotweed that's an invasive species that's multiplying quickly along the trail. During that walk, we heard from Becky Pollock from the Georgian Bay Biosphere Reserve. Adjacent the trail, next to Trestle Brewery, we've seen a vacant area. Becky described how we were going to have a butterfly garden there with milkweed and native species of various plants and trees. I drove by today and poof, we've got instant garden. So I thank her and the many volunteers who were involved in doing that. I'm sure it'll be a really nice addition to the trail. From the DBA, I'm advised that starting Thursday, June 7th, each Thursday evening, upwards of 15 businesses will be open in the downtown until 7 p.m. This is, I think, the most concerted effort to do that in a good number of years. So I'm hoping both the local population and our seasonal visitors will support that. Council will recall a couple or three meetings ago we heard from Graham Porter and Stuart Morley about the town crier project. It's expected that downtown Parry Sound, from roughly the Trestle to the Strand Theatre and Gibson Street down to somewhere around Pizzaville, will be Wi-Fi accessible within the next week or 10 days. So again, another feature that makes downtown a little more user-friendly. And that's my report for this evening, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councilor McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council and staff and people watching. I got a shorter report this evening from news from Belvedere. On Wednesday, May 23rd, I attended the Belvedere Heights Board of Management monthly meeting. There was a presentation from Hub International regarding directors and office liability insurance. We had the presentation of the 2017 draft audited financial statements from KPMG. We also reviewed day 2 of the strategic planning session and discussed our next steps. Human Resources Committee, this is one committee that I sit on, will be dealing with that on the subject of pay equity in the very, very near future. Councillor Borneman has already spoke well of the Snowbirds Air Show, and it is coming Wednesday, June 13th. That's a week from tomorrow. It's starting at roughly at 5 o'clock. And again, I sit on that committee, and I'm just so in awe of how everything has come together. And as Paul has said, everybody has really pitched in and just got right to work, and it's just like magic. It's too easy to say it that because I know that there's a lot of effort and a lot of work that goes into it from all of our staff members and volunteers, but it's well done. I just have to go to the meetings and sit there and listen to all the plans, and it's all coming together quite well. So don't miss that. I would like to extend condolences to the family and friends of Gord Pollard. He passed away on May 28th at the age of 89. Gord, of course, was very well known in the community. He came to Parry Sound in 1961, founded Pollard Pharmacy in 1969, very active in his church at St. Andrew's, Presbyterian in Parry Sound. He indeed will be missed, and I didn't realize this, but he was, I guess, a bit of a hockey player in his early days and still played well into his 70s. On a happier note, this is a plug for the Parry Sound Seniors Club. They're holding an open house this Saturday. I think they're trying to rejuvenate themselves and build up their momentum once again. It is this Saturday, June 9th. The clubhouse, of course, is at 80 James Street. They're open from 10 to 1. Everyone's welcome. Chris Burton was elected the club's director, and she, with great tact and diplomacy, reminded me that I'm old enough to join that club. So thank you, Chris. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sonia?
Good evening, everyone, those in attendance, those watching on television. Why is it always mine?
Yeah, it's very sensitive tonight for some reason, so we have to be back a bit.
Must be Councillor Horn's cologne.
Maybe. I don't have any on.
My report is even more brief. 3.5 weeks ago, I had shoulder surgery. I wasn't going to come tonight, but Nicole told me I should, as we had a few large things on the agenda tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Speedy recovery.
Councillor Horn.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I attended the Bobby Orr Hall of Fame committee meeting where we reviewed a number of the nominations that have been submitted for the various age categories for the youth group. Shout out to the committee that's done a great job, and Caitlin, who is the new curator, is doing a fantastic job organizing it. Just a reminder that Saturday, June 23rd is a youth celebration for the Bobby Orr Hall of Fame. We have some wonderful youth that are nominated, so please come out and support our youth that are doing great things all over the West Parry Sound area. The planning board has been mentioned by Councillor Keith, and I also just want to give a shout out to Community Living Parry Sound and Rise Resource Center for this stopgap initiative. They had their kickoff on Saturday, and a shout out to everybody that's involved in making accessible ramps for the Downtown Business Association. So watch for those being installed in the downtown businesses. Thanks, that's my report.
Okay, thank you. Council staff and public, Councillor Keith mentioned the CNIB event, which is at the meeting building, and yes, I really appreciate the efforts of Betty McDowell and her advocacy for the CNIB. May 17th was the Parry Sound District Social Services Board meeting, which was here in Parry Sound. May 24th, I attended an AMO executive meeting in Toronto. May 27th was the 295 McPherson Air Squadron Banquet and Awards Night. And May 31st was the Community Living's Breakfast with the Mayor, and a well-attended, sold-out event, and I have to commend the board and staff and volunteers for all their excellent work in promoting an inclusive, accepting, and active outlook in Parry Sound, which is recognized provincially, certainly, and you know, it's great when you have great things happen in Parry Sound, and then people want to model what you're doing in other communities, and I really appreciate what Community Living's done. So, Councillor Horn, and thank you. Yeah. June 5th, today, the official opening of Winks Link Trail. This connects up with the trail into McDougall Township, and as was mentioned, was named in memory of Wendell Fisher, who was a very strong advocate for active transportation in the area. As I mentioned this morning, I remember when we had the 8 to 80s people come here to Parry Sound during the Ontario Small Urban Conference. And Wendell was invited to that to hear Gil Penalosa talk and what was going on in other countries and other towns and cities. And he came out of that meeting just so charged on how what we could do here, what he was seeing being done in other places, and that you weren't just, one age group. It was, 8 to 80, and that just fit with his concept of active living. So he is missed, and my condolences to the family again, which were mentioned a while ago, but certainly this is a true dedication to somebody that worked hard for active transportation. I would also like to thank our Public Works crew and on the work and construction that was done on the trail, and the structure for the sign, extremely well done and very tasteful. Yeah. As a closing remark, I'd also like to offer my condolences to the family of Gord Pollard in his passing. And that's my report. Okay. So the ratification from matters on the closed agenda. Item 7.1 was a property purchase. Council provided direction to staff. 7.2 was a property matter that was just discussed. 7.3, potential national event. Council was updated on an event, which will come forward at another time. Now we can get to the, yeah. So item 9.11, moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Horn, that the Council of the Town of Parry Sound award the purchase of the 2019 Fire Department Pumper Rescue to dependable emergency vehicles in the amount of $522,888 plus HXT, inclusive of the trade-in value of $27,000 for the current 1998 GMC Rescue and the 2000 Metal Fab Pumper, and further that Council authorized discretionary additional funding of $30,000 for possible additions to the vehicle which may be prudent upon factors identified in the pre-built meeting with the dependable emergency vehicles. Discussion. Councillor Keith.
Yes, Mr. Thompson, just two brief questions. One is, it certainly sounds from your report that dependable, which is the lowest quote, there's only positive things in experience in the past is what I'm reading there. But I'm wondering what you would say when one, well, shall we say a taxpayer says, holy crow, $522,000 for that piece of equipment. How do you explain the necessity for that? I'm sure you can.
No pressure though. Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Yes, I quite agree. Fire trucks are expensive pieces of equipment. It also seems whenever I purchase any type of piece of equipment for the fire department, it's expensive. And generally they are. As soon as you certify a piece of equipment for rescue work, fire and rescue work, the amount of certifications that have to go into it to make sure that it performs day in, day out in the worst conditions possible, greatly increase the price. That's for sure. We run a fully functioning fire and rescue department. We're an urban fire department. We run into burning buildings. Done that more in the 5 years I've been here than I have ever before in my career because of the environment we're in as compared to where I was previous to being here. Everything revolves around the fact that, that's what's expected in an urban environment. So this particular truck, $550,000 all in, is going to perform multiple functions. It's going to be a pumping apparatus To be a pumping apparatus, it has to be certified for that purpose. It has to be extremely rugged. It has to start every time you turn the key. It can't have bad days. And they're designed to run even when they're not in the best shape to be running. There are safety overrides on them that do not let the vehicle shut down the way your normal vehicles would shut down if they were overheating or other things were going on like that. And due to those factors, they're over-designed. For most situations, they're over-designed. For the extreme situation that you might run into once in its life, it's not over-designed. So this vehicle is also going to be multi-functional as well. It is a pumper rescue. We're taking 2 vehicles out of the fleet and adding only 1 more back in. So that's a fairly important part. I don't want to suggest that when we replace another fire truck, it's not going to be expensive. They're all going to be expensive every time we replace one. I'll leave it at that.
Councillor Keith?
One follow-up, and that would be, so what I heard is we're hoping for a vehicle that is going hopefully to give us the best bang for the buck in all situations possible, but how long do you anticipate is the average life for that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we replace all our vehicles. Our replacement cycle is on a 20-year replacement cycle. So that's a combination of factors. At that time frame, the parts for any particular vehicle are generally becoming obsolete. So it's harder and harder to do any repairs that are necessary and to find the proper pieces of equipment to do repairs at 20 years. There's also insurance aspects. Every fire department's rated. Every municipality has insurance ratings. One of those is the replacement of vehicles around that 20-year time frame. That's what we've placed our replacement schedule at. We expect this truck to perform admirably for that time frame, 20 years.
Councillor Boardman?
So for roughly $25,000 a year, we're getting a truck that's going to service the community for 20 years. Mr. Thompson, previous chiefs used to say that by keeping the fleet up to date and properly equipped, that homeowners and businesses in the community also, because of the fire department's rating, saw some reduction in their home insurance. Is that still the case?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, absolutely. We are at the best rating we can get for a volunteer fire department. The only way we can get a better rating is to have a full-time fire department. And we all know what that would do to cost, nor is it necessary in a community of 6,500 people for the call volume that we have. However, to keep at that best rating possible, we need to do things like this. Invest in the fire department on a regular basis. I don't think it's unreasonable to think that a truck should be replaced in 20 years. I haven't owned a car that's 20 years old for a long time now. Personally, we put a high degree of maintenance into the vehicles to make sure that they last that long. The insurance ratings that you get, because you invest in your fire department, far outweigh the costs of your fire department. I mean, if we take a look at that, $25,000 a year amortization for this vehicle, even if we multiply that by the 3 vehicles that we have, so for $75,000, I mean, that's only 75 homes at $1,000 a year. And your insurance ratings, that doesn't even have anything to do with tax dollars, the insurance ratings would go up way more than that if you didn't have a fully functioning fire department like this. Yeah. Ask the people in Archipelago.
Yeah. Councillor Horn.
I would also think, Mr. Thompson, that the volunteer firefighters certainly would appreciate the investment that the town makes in providing them the best available equipment they have to work with in those dangerous situations that hopefully protect them and the community.
If it's shiny and has sirens on it, the volunteer firefighter members just love it. You know, I know all the fire chiefs too. Yeah, you're right. They do appreciate the investment. They greatly appreciate the investment in the fire department. I mean, these people do what they do not for the paycheck that they get out of it or anything like that. They do it because they have a passion to do it, And it sure is a definite way of demonstrating appreciation for the amount of time and work and effort, and they greatly appreciate when there's an investment made in the fire department, such as the new SCBA's this year, or as well as new vehicles. I mean, New Fire Truck Day is one of the most exciting days every 7 years when it comes around. So there'll be a lot of happy faces when a brand new, shiny, red, loud fire truck pulls into the parking lot.
Anything further? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moved by Councillor McCann and seconded by Councillor Borneman that upon the recommendation of the EMS Advisory Committee through the approved EMS budget, that the Council of the Town of Parry Sound approve the bid from Bayview in the amount of $36,400 plus taxes for the supply of a 2018 pickup truck. Discussion? Councillor Borneman?
I'm glad to see a local bidder win the tender, Mr. Thompson. I'm just wondering, when we do these things, do we consider in evaluating bids the operation costs of vehicles over time, or is it strictly based on price?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. In this case, what we're talking about in this particular vehicle is simply a pickup truck that is then modified into a Ministry of Health vehicle. This is not an ambulance by any means. And in my opinion, we have, I'll say 3 main suppliers of pickup trucks that we generally utilize, and that'd be Dodge, Ford, and GM. And in my experience, it doesn't matter which one you get, the operating costs are the same, and the vehicle you get is fairly similar in the first place. So I know there's lots of people out there who have their preferences and like one over another, but to me, this is one of those situations where it's a truck is a truck is a truck, and what we're looking at is the lowest bid. I did really like the idea of the local bidders being able to get to work this time. Of course, we can't always direct it like that when we're doing this sort of stuff. We're governed by the rules as everyone else does, but in this case it works out.
Anything further? All in favor? Oh, Councillor McCann?
Actually, it's fine.
You're okay? All right. All in favor then? That's carried. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Horn that Council accepts the only proposal received for the exterior building sign request for proposals from Sign City Incorporated for the Charles W. Stockey Center and Bobby Orr Hall of Fame in the amount of $3,250 plus HST. Discussion. Councillor Marshall and then Councillor Keith.
Yes. Thank you very much. First of all, I love the concept included in the report of the signs. I think it's a very timely, updated look for the Stockey Center, especially with the renovations we're going there. They're in the report they talk about we've done work with this company before, and they mention a couple things in here as far as the Bobby Orr Stockey Center and the one on the highway. I was just wondering what they've done as far as the Bobby Orr Hall of Fame. Is that like the facade? They did that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. They have done the marquee sign that is at the entranceway.
Okay.
And they did the Highway 400 billboard sign that is near MacTier.
That one?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay. Anything further? Oh yeah, Councillor Keith, go ahead.
Yes, I have 2 questions, Ms. Mullen. One is I got the impression that under budget, so if we were go with what is recommended here, certainly we would be under budget, which is a positive thing. But I'm wondering, number 2, is the signage that is there now, roughly how old is it? And this new sign, how long is it anticipated it will be best of life, shall we say.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The original sign was the one that was put on the building when it was first built. And the letters that are on the sign are actually fine. It's the backboard that the sign was on that it was faded and could not be fixed. There is a 1-year warranty with Sign City on this new sign. As for the lifespan, depending on the weather we get down there, it should keep the sign in good condition. And the letters themselves can come off and be cleaned and then put back on.
Well, I hope we get at least 10 years out of it.
That is the hope, or longer, for sure.
Okay, anything further? All in favor? That's carried.
So we just need an amendment to clerk.
Okay, all right. So this is item 923. It's moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Horn that the resolution reads that the mayor and CAO be authorized to sign the Lakeland Holdings Limited subscription of common shares resolution attached to Schedule A. And I've just been informed that it should be the mayor and clerk. So I need a mover and seconder to change CAO to clerk. Councillor Borneman and Councillor Marshall. Moving that respectively. All in favor of that? Thank you. Any discussion on the resolution as amended? Councillor McCann.
Thank you. Maybe perhaps Mr. Menz could tell us what this is about.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So it is as a result of the Cascade generation plant being brought on stream, producing power, making money. And there was a date that triggers when that would come into effect. And it's a certificate that is issued by one of the electrical agencies. So as it turned out, it really worked in our favor going back to October 13 of 2017. That isn't what we expected as 2017 was winding down. So we started, our share increased at that point from 13.5% of Lakeland Holdings in total to 15.57%. So everybody makes more money as a result of Cascade coming on stream, but the town, of course, also makes a lot of money from all of the other generation plants and companies within Lakeland Holdings. So our share of the dividends from Lakeland increased. I think it was $37,000, give or take. It's roughly $37,000. So we will bring in 2018. I think it's about $280,000 as annual dividends. So.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, it's a good investment. Councillor Borneman.
Yeah, considering the situation that we were in and that we didn't want to tie up our own funds, this is the gift that keeps giving. It's a win-win situation.
Good way of putting it.
Let's hope that that generator stays intact for the next time.
That's right, yeah. 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 Yeah, I know. Any further discussion on this item? No. All in favor? And that's carried as amended. Oh, right, yeah. So moved by Councillor Borneman, second by Councillor Marshall, that council hereby approves the 2019 budgeting schedule as set out in the attached Schedule A. Any discussion? Councillor Keith?
I just wanted for clarity because certainly it seems to me Ms. Chen has done a fine job of coming up with dates for a proposal for the budgeting schedule, but it is still my understanding that this is a guideline, so it's not quite written in stone because we just never know, right?
That's correct.
Yes, thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Item 932, moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Horn, that council authorizes to purchase the budgeting software Questica. I guess that's right, eh? Questica? Okay. At approximately $37,000 of one-time cost and $3,000 of annual license and maintenance fee. That council approves withdrawals from the tax rate stabilization reserve for the unbudgeted $27,000 to implement the software, and that conditions of the procurement policy are here waived. Discussion. Councillor McCann.
Yes, Mr. Chen. Can you tell us what this software is going to do for us?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. This budgeting software will be able to allow us to input budget information into the system directly and also consolidate the budget lines automatically, provide data security so that authorization to the system will be defined by administrators, and also be able to generate reports for us to see which area we have opportunities. So we would be able to do variance analysis, looking at the past year's actual spending and compared to what is in the budget. So all the information will be integrated. And also one of the features that I like a lot is it will allow us to distribute the expenses based on some factors we given. For example, if we have some baseline, the budget from last year, and we want, say, increase by 2%, or maybe we want to decrease by a certain amount, we'll be able to do that, and also be able to consider the seasonality of certain expenses. Another thing we can do is with this system, if we have certain dollar amount and we want to share it in different departments or even different lines, we will be able to allocate it using some definition there. So it's very convenient compared to what we have been using in Excel. This will definitely give us quite a lot of efficiency and also security and reporting capability.
Thank you.
Very good. Any further questions? Councillor Keith? Oh,
I
okay.
think
Councillor
he was
Marshall, I think, and then Councillor Keith.
Yeah, just a quick question for Ms. Chan. The budgeting amounts here, does that also include training for staff just to get themselves familiar with the new system?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the quotes, the preliminary quotes, unofficial quotes, including the budget, including training. So after implementation, we will be trained on how to use the system. But once that passed, if we need additional training for new employees or something outside of this implementation period, then we have to spend more money.
Councillor Keith?
I guess one question was along Councillor Marshall's vein, but basically what I heard, that this system is going to be more efficient, more creative, accurate, and less labor intense. That's what we're getting there.
That's correct.
Correct? And the other thing that I just want to have clarification on, how long a period is the initial training for any of the new staff? How many months, shall we say, is it? Or is it days only?
Through you, Ms. Mayor, the training will depend on the capability of employees who take in the training, but I was talking to the software provider, and it was mentioned that the training is not something difficult. So if we dedicated ourselves a few hours here and then, we will be able to learn how to use the software. Also, some of the features probably is self-explanatory. So if we do some due diligence and try the using software, we'll be able to find out. Just as something like you use Microsoft Suite, when you use Word or Excel at the beginning, it might be difficult, but once you get a hang of it, it will be easier to explore different features.
Okay, good. Councillor Borneman?
Ms. Chen, my concern is there a specific reason that we're waiving the procurement policy in this instance? Have we analyzed similar systems and determined that this is the best one, or how did we come to that choice?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Borneman, this is a very good question, and I'm sure I have a answer for that. There are different budgeting software solutions in the market, and most of the software, they are integrated to different systems. For example, this software, Questcar, is integrated to the accounting system we are using, Dynamics GP. And also they have another accounting system, Vedum. The software is compatible to that too. There are some software solutions available that are integrated with our accounting system. For example, IBM Cognos TM1 and Oracle Hyperion. I had experience from my previous work life with both. They are mostly used by large corporations because these two software solutions need IT support. For organizations like us, it is unrealistic to get IT support to make this budget software work. There are some other solutions like Microsoft Forecaster, but it has been discontinued a couple years ago. BI 360, it's used by smaller organization, but it's kind of like an add-on to Excel. So I would imagine, I haven't used it, but I would imagine this is a step up to Excel, but not something we want to get into in the long term. There's another one called Profex. I had experience with it a few years ago, and that's something that I don't want to recommend because it's another step up to Excel. So from what I see and from what I talk to the municipalities that are using this software, I'm confident that this software meets our needs with moderate cost.
Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. Item 941, moved by Councillor McCann and seconded by Councillor Marshall, that Council award the repair and restoration of 2 stone pillars at the main entrance of Hillcrest Cemetery to Paul Langford Masonry in the amount of $17,500. Taxes extra, this being the lowest of 2 tenders, 2 requests for quotations received. Discussion. Councillor Keith?
I realize that in some areas now, I'm seeing in some communities where they seem to be just taking down the pillars, the fences, and everything is, shall we say, more free range in respect to a cemetery. And so here, when I see that the suggestion, of course, is of repairing these pillars, what I'm just not 100% clear on, and that would be in doing that job, and I can appreciate that our community, that cemetery has been there a long time, and it certainly has a nice look when everything is up to snuff. But if we repair the pillars, is there a plan down the road to paint all that metal fencing? Because it's looking kind of rough. What's the situation, Mr. Brown?
Through your worship, good point, Councillor. The wrought iron railing does need some work, and we're hoping to do some remedial repairs this year. But as you recall, there's been a lot of work done on the monuments in the last couple of years. We've had to repair a lot of the broken and damaged monuments and vandalized monuments, and we're making significant progress on that. We got to a point where we had to look at the pillars as far as replacing them because they were in rough shape. We took the internal ones down because they were pretty well falling on their own. These ones here, I think, would be an added bonus to retain them. It adds a little color and a little character to the cemetery. But I agree that we will be looking at doing the repairs to the wrought iron railing over the next year and in 2019.
Thank you. So I heard there is a plan for the wrought iron railing too in the future if we do this. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Anything further on this one? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Yes. Yeah, so we have item 951, which is fitness trail maintenance, and Councillor Keith, you have this for discussion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. How this came about is I was at an 8 to 80s meeting not very long ago, and the concern was that, of course, we like all citizens of various ages out using, for example, the fitness trails, but also the concern for that we're in a biosphere and having an environment that we truly respect, and it's sending that message through. And walking along the fitness trail, I know behind the lumber yard, there's some erosion, some infrastructure needs there. So this was one of the concerns, besides the concern being that there's public work equipment and ATV, and it was hoped for that. Right now it seems that the drag behind that ATV, there was concern about how much damage possibly in other areas that is occurring. So of course there was the concern and suggestion that maybe there could be a drag left in one spot in the Old Town Beach, or what's called Centennial Park, and one at the other end for the Wabano Beach, as well as maybe proper signage for the ATV. So there was a concern that people in the community that see that will respect A, the trail, and B, because we value the trail, what can we do? How can it be improved so everything, when anybody goes walking on it, it's in really good shape throughout the community? And also, how do we give the impression in our community, because it's true, of course, that when an employee is on an ATV, that is a special ATV that's just is being used for work. So I brought this forward tonight because the committee was concerned that we have these trails, and how do we do the best for our community?
Thank you. Mr. Brown?
Through your worship, if I can add or make a few comments about the comments made by Councillor Keith. And we've had discussions about this, and I think I've sent some emails out to council regarding some of these issues. The infrastructure or the drainage problem behind the McNabb's lumber was budgeted in 2018, for 2018 to repair. Other work got in the way, and we haven't got there yet. We're hoping to get at that job this month to complete it, so it allows it to reduce the amount of stormwater drainage or stormwater issues that happen in that location. So I'm confident that we'll be able to get that hopefully done this month, unless something else comes up. With regards to the dragging of the fitness trail, we do that on a off and on basis. We have to be cognizant of the fact that the trail is not an infinite amount of material under it. we have to be sure that when we're dragging it, we don't drag all the material off that's there in a very thin layer. So we have to look at putting more pink granite down. So then there has to be a cost to that as well. And pink granite's not cheap and it's not easy to get. So we have to keep that in mind as well. So Public Works is working with Parks and Recreation. We're meeting, actually I think it's late this week or early next week, to go over some of the issues with regards to the fitness trail and how we can make improvements to it and how we can ensure that it is still a valid, viable trail. It's not a highway, it's a fitness trail. So we want to make sure that, you know, we provide the best service we can as a fitness trail. We're doing the best we can with the equipment that we have. I mentioned the dragger issue there that, you know, when one was built, we did it many, many years ago. The new ones are not cheap, and to build something like that does take time and effort and money. So we utilize the equipment that we have as best we can in the locations. So, you know, we're working with Parks and Recreation to ensure that we provide the best service for this particular trail.
Mr. Menz had, and then Councillor Keith. Yeah.
Just through Mr. Mayor, just on the dragger issue, talking to Ms. McNamara, she is looking to price out 2 draggers. The one is seen its day, I guess, as Mr. Brown's alluding to. It was built several years ago. So there is a good chance that within this year's budget, we'll be able to have 2 draggers for the beach. That's what we're talking about, the beach draggers. One at each one, so that's is being looked at.
Councillor Keith.
Yes, I think that one of the concerns is when one beach is dragged, though, the drag goes along the fitness trail and ends up at the other beach. But the other concern would be in respect to, has there been any thought, or could there be any thought in reference to the ATV that is used to go from one beach to another, of maybe some signage on it so people know that that's kind of like a work vehicle, it's not party time, shall we say?
Through your worship, I can't speak for the Parks and Recreation Department who run the ATVs, but as a suggestion, you could sign it. You could put a flashing light on it, on a pole to identify it as a work vehicle, as a thought. But you know, there are ways of identifying the ATV that we could take a look at. I could speak to April about that.
So my last comment would be then, perhaps it might be possible, Mr. Brown, seeing as you seem to have all the good ideas and things seem to be working in place, that perhaps, if possible, by the next 8 to 80s meeting later in June, some sort of a letter could just be sent to them to say, hey, this is what we're doing. Is that a possibility?
Through your worship, I'd be happy to share my ideas with the 880 committees.
Perhaps you might even come if you wanted.
Okay, Councillor Borneman.
Mr. Brown, you brought up the cost of pig granite. That was one of the items noted in the Waterfront Committee's march along the fitness trail. Was on the east side of the river, at least. There are lengthy sections where there's virtually no pink granite left. So, you know, I don't know what that stuff costs anymore, but do we allot an annual, is that a budget item that every year we put down so much of that? If it's not, maybe it should be, because I think we've got a number of years worth of stretches over there that need attention. Either that, or we need to be looking at something that's more cost effective, more durable, whatever. I know everyone likes the pink, but sometimes you got to go with what you can afford.
Mr. Brown.
Through your worship, when I first arrived here many years ago, they weren't using the pink. They didn't have any, so they were throwing black, green, like anything they could find on the trail, just to cover it, just to blend it. And then the conversation started about, well, where's the pink granite? Because that's how the trail was originally built. Is there a budget line item for it? No, there is not, but I think that's something that we should consider we will consider for 2019. In the meantime, we'll do our best to source out as much inexpensive paint granite as we can and start laying it down there.
Just as a quick question, though, can you lay down like another color, like black, first, and then put the pink, like if you have to fill in and then put the pink on top of it, like a base, and then that way you're not using as much pink?
Through your worship, yes, but it's still almost as much of the same as before.
Okay.
Like we fill the potholes with, or the depressed areas of the small potholes with other material besides the pink granite.
Okay.
We always use it as the top coat.
Okay.
We could always pave it if you like.
Some people would like that, I know. You're retiring, right? Yeah. Okay, are we good? Councillor Keith, you're satisfied with that discussion? Okay, thank you. Item 10.11, moved by Councillor Marshall, second by Councillor Borneman, that bylaw number 2018-6835, a bylaw to establish and regulate a fire department and to repeal Corporation of the Town of Parry Sound bylaws 893357 and 933617 be considered as read a first time. All in favor? And that's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? And that's carried. Moved by Councillor Borneman, second by Councillor Marshall, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Any discussion? Councillor Borneman?
Mr. Chief Thompson, do you want to give us the highlights of this? I think that's important for the public to know.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Establishing and regulating bylaws is one of the purely administrative things that we do in terms of defining the makeup of the fire department, what it does, what our limitations are, things of that nature. A lot of it would sound to be common sense to many people, but it's important that we have it down on paper so that you know, it clearly defines what we do and what we're supposed to do. There are a few highlights that I pointed out in the report, and I'll bring those up, that are significant changes from the last time this was done, which, as you can see from what we're repealing, was in 89 and 93. So a lot of time has gone past, a lot of things have changed, and we now have new recommendations from the OFM. So one of the first things when we're dealing with a volunteer-based fire department is that we include a limited service clause. And what that identifies is that the nature of a volunteer service has human resources that fluctuate, and that it's important to note that so that the residents in the community recognize that that limitation is there. The other aspect of a limited service, and it is pertinent to us up here, is the fact that this is not a large urban environment where you can virtually be guaranteed to be able to get your trucks wherever they need to go. We have spots in the town that do have long driveways. There are spots that have significant hills to traverse, and we even have some water access properties. It was interesting when we were talking about this at my officers meeting that some of our officers didn't even realize we had water access only properties within the town of Parry Sound. So there are only 3 or 4 of them, but they are there. So the services to spaces like that are not the same as the way we're going to be able to service a dwelling or business on James Street. It just makes sense. But we put that down so that it helps protect the municipality and also advises the residents that there are limitations to what we provide. Another significant change is the inclusion of auxiliary firefighters. As years pass, again, 89, 93 is a long time ago, firefighters were firefighters and they all ran into burning buildings. Well, that's not the case anymore. We do a lot more than just run into burning buildings. And a really good example of that is our fire prevention activities, which have grown immensely since 1993. And it's a key component of what we do now, if not the most important component of what we do now, is the prevention of fires rather than the suppression of fires. And it's very important to note that you don't need the same type of person to do fire prevention activities as you do to do fire suppression activities. So we're creating a category of firefighter that will allow for people who maybe aren't interested nor capable of doing the operational aspects of active firefighting, but are interested in some other aspects of firefighting, and the prime example of that is fire prevention activities. Another key component of what we've changed here is the inclusion of a junior firefighter program. This is becoming more popular throughout throughout Ontario. I came from a municipality that did have a junior program, and I think there's two important aspects to that. One is our engagement with the community and being able to interact with individuals in our community who are in that 14 to 18 age cohort, I think is a very good thing, not only for my membership in the fire department, but also for the community as a whole, to identify for people who are out there in that cohort, 14 to 18-year-olds, about some of the life skills that they can learn by participating with us, some of the things that we can expose them to that maybe they would never have an opportunity to be exposed to those sorts of things in going to school as it's fashioned for kids now. What we do in that fire hall is very hands-on and appeals to a certain group of people. And I'm not sure that the normal learning environment is conducive for everyone. We think we can provide an opportunity for people who maybe would like to participate in a different learning environment. The other aspect about that is much more self-serving in that finding people to operate in a volunteer fire service is becoming harder and harder as the years pass. We're very fortunate in this community that we do have strong participation levels. That's not the case through most of, especially rural Ontario. Junior program also will help us if we can bring some of these young people into the department, get them interested, they learn what is fun about what we do, we might be able to keep them once they turn 18, turn them into a full-time firefighter for us, volunteer firefighter, but a full-time member, and be able to help us out with our crew moving into the future. So those are the major changes. Other than that, the bylaw just establishes the way that we function, what we do, the types of services we provide, and all those other aspects of what we do.
Councillor McCann?
Just a quick question. You're talking, Chief Thompson, about the junior firefighter program. How are youth in this area know about it? Is the information distributed through the high school, or how is the word circulated?
Well, it's interesting. We have people who come to us now who show an interest in what we do. We have numerous open houses. And you'd be surprised at I want to tell you a story, actually, since you allowed me to do this, because I like telling stories. I'm enjoying this. Thank you. As you know, 4 of us ran in the walk, run, pole thing that the hospital put on there last week. We finished that runoff, and we were standing at the finish line. And one of the students was there from Rossville Lake College, came up and was showing some interest. And I had an opportunity to stand back and watch. And so I got to see a great interaction between one of our firefighters, Olivia Ostrom, and this high school student who was a foreign student. So this is someone from overseas who comes to Rossville Lake College. And he was showing some keen interest in what we were doing. And it didn't take long before Olivia started talking to him. And then she was putting some gear on him. Before I knew it, just standing there watching, he had a full backpack on and was trying out the whole gamut of what we do. That's the kind of engagement that I'd like to see with the youth in our community and our firefighters. That's beneficial to both groups. And it was just a really good moment to stand there and watch. So there's all sorts of ways we can engage the youth, and then we interact with the youth. How we get this word out to them, I mean, it's a combination of identifying keeners and bringing them in, and them seeing what we're doing and coming in themselves. So it's going to be a combination of approaches.
Wonderful program, great.
Okay, thanks, Trevor, or Dave.
Oh my gosh. Are there any other questions? No? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Chief, very much.
You should see Peter's text.
Item 10.1.2, moved by Councillor Saunier and seconded by Councillor Horn, that bylaw number 2018-6830, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a memorandum of understanding MOU between property owners along Macklem Drive and Dennis Drive, and the town of Parry Sound, be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? Carried. Moved by Councillor Saunier, second by Councillor Horn, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Discussion. Councillor Marshall.
Mr. Elchi. So we've got, I think everybody's had a chance to read the correspondence with the property owner on Macklem Drive with the two lots. If you can kind of just explain if has there been any change? We talked about it, I think, on Friday. Has there been any kind of change with the situation there since?
Through your worship, there hasn't been really any updates or changes since we last spoke. We got this letter from them yesterday, but yeah, oh, no worries. But I think we've known all along that that property owner who owns those two properties wasn't interested in this project. That was to be expected. It was noted in my report, which was written a week ago, because that was told to me verbally. So we were aware that 2 out of the 20 lots have no interest in participation in it. For the reasons being, they bought the lots for privacy. This type of project directly flies in the face of that. And it is a significant cost being put on title of all the properties, or that would be required to be paid, anywhere from $35,000 to $40,000, depending on the lot.
Just as a follow-up to that, is there any way that she could opt out of this? There might be ways like she do a deeming bylaw to join the lots with her existing house where she could be exempt from this?
Through your worship, there are ways which these properties could be exempt. However, the costs to those lots still exist, so they don't disappear. To get the services going by, that's where the main cost is. So if these 2 lots are exempt, regardless of whether they're deemed or she doesn't pay, or however you want to do it, someone else has to pick up that tab. I'm thinking that a guess that the other property owners wouldn't want to pay more would be accurate. They signed on to the MOU as it is in front of you today. And also, if they weren't to pay today, the property owner, in the future, it would be very, very easy for that property owner to hook up at minimal fee, because the service would already be in front of them.
Councillor Saunier.
Well, on that note, and that's what I was thinking about, is there not a way that we could establish like a 1 foot right of way or something like that, where the tab is $40,000 to go those 12 inches to those 2 empty lots? If those lots were to be sold in the future, somebody would have to pay the $40,000 to hook up. Provisions that we could put into it, knowing full well that it's pretty easy to hook up on the cheap.
Through your worship, that is definitely one option that's available. Staff aren't overly in love with that option. The 1 foot reserve, which you're speaking of, it could have something registered in the title saying that essentially that 1 foot reserve stays there until the $40,000 would be paid to whoever paid it. The problem is, what if nothing happens for 30, 40, 20 years and we can't find the other 2 willing participants to pay back? And also, the town would essentially be carrying the cost and tax base on those 2 lots in the meantime. But it is feasible. Another option is those 2 lots could have a deferred charge, so they don't pay until it changes title or a building permit comes out. But the risk on that side is, I would bet that the other property owners would be interested in that type of leniency as well. So it's pretty hard to distinguish how you give to one and not the other. And if everyone has a deferred charge, there's no real pressure to develop the lots because they can kind of sit on them, watch the market keep rising at the rate it has been, while this charge is fairly minimal. Well, actually, it'd be nothing. It would, because they wouldn't have to pay anything until they do something.
Well, I think there's an option to try and work with the person and try to work out something. But we also have 18 lots that we need some development on. And this is one of the things to do it. I know that there's one builder in particular that wants, not this year, next year, or whatever, he can start building. So, and we need the housing. That's the bottom line. We've got to get some more housing in this community. And it's not just this community, it's other communities too, but I think we need to move forward. It's the best option, and we'll just do what we can to try and work with the person to work something out. I don't know what that is right at the moment. Some options have been discussed tonight, but I think we need to allow some development to happen. The infilling is extremely important. So, Mr. Metz.
Mr. Mayor, through you to Mr. LG, can council approve the bylaw tonight and then ask for recommendations on how to address the two lots?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's really what we're talking about.
Through your worship, absolutely. Really, the costing and the payback doesn't really get written in stone until the work is done. This MOU isn't actually necessary. It's just a formality. So everyone is aware what the rules are, everyone is aware what the costs are, and to get everyone on the same page, it was just a level of certainty to provide everyone. So if the project proceeds, we can still hammer out the details and costing afterwards. If anyone wants to pay it over 20 years, those people will have to have it registered on title. If anyone wants to pay it immediately, well, then they can just pay immediately and then they're good to go.
Exactly. Councillor Keith?
So I guess I'm confused here. So what I really heard, so I must be confused, what I really heard is we can have this agreement, but really this agreement doesn't really mean anything because we can now negotiate individually. Because if not, and then I would say whatever 20 people who agreed to one thing, they hear afterwards, well, 2 people didn't have to do it. Well, why would I have to do it? So I'm a little confused as to this matter.
Mr. LG.
Through your worship, if I did phrase it like that, I apologize, that wasn't the intent. What I meant to say is if the costs are solid and we proceed on the basis that we will be getting this money paid back from these property owners, the method of payment is still up for, it can still be figured out. So a deferred charge could be considered, but if anyone isn't going to be paying, then that would throw a real monkey wrench into all the numbers in here.
Anything further? Councillor Keith?
Well, I guess my comment again is until it's known if if people are going to pay or they're not going to pay, what would be the point of having a bylaw where people aren't in agreement? I mean, it just seems how are you going to enforce that? I guess I'm thinking that if there's 2 people right now who aren't comfortable with proceeding with this, unless this can be negotiated to come forth with a bylaw, until that is worked out, maybe this needs to go back and there needs to be more discussion rather than passing a bylaw tonight.
Just for clarification, there's only one person. There's 20 lots, but that one person has 2 lots out of the 20. So there's 18 lots that are in agreement, but they're owned by 2 people, correct? Yeah. Councillor McCann.
Listening to Councillor Keith, and not putting words in her mouth, but I'm wondering, are we setting a precedent for the, another situation?
No. I don't know, not that I'm aware of. Mr. Mintz?
I don't think that you would, I don't think I would consider this as a precedent-setting decision. This is fairly unique. By the time another similar situation rolls around, I think a lot of us won't be around this table anymore. I didn't go as far as I could have with that. Oh, yeah. Well, there's a lot of truth to that, yeah. But I think this is a situation where you evaluate every situation, every proposal like this on its own merit. So I don't think it's necessarily precedent setting.
Mr. Elgin.
Through your worship, to look at this through a different lens, we're doing this through a tariff and fees charges bylaw, which provides some flexibility in the municipal act. Had the proponents gone through a local improvement charge act and they went through the formal petition and they had 18 of 20 lots voting in favor, we would essentially, we being the municipality, would be legislated to follow through on this, regardless of what the property owner owns 2 lots is. So because we're going through this option, we're having this conversation. Had we gone through a different act, being local improvement, it would essentially be tied to having to do the improvements. So.
Anything further? All in favor of the bylaw? And that's carried. I think there should be some follow-up direction on that, is that we'll try to work on some plan. Mr. LG can work on some plan with the property owner.
Yeah, direction should be given for me to speak to the property owner who submitted the comments and try to come up with some proposals. She did outline some options in her solicitor's letter, so those could be further discussed. And but we have a terms now of that council wants to move forward with the project, but now we just figure out some of the details on how the money will be collected and whatnot.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Borneman and Councillor Keith. Okay. Discussion on that? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Here we go. Moved by Councillor Marshall and second by Councillor Borneman that bylaw number 2018-6836 being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with G Cash Management Systems for the continued placement of an automated teller machine ATM at the Charles W. Stockey Center for the Performing Arts be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? Carried. Moved by Councillor Marshall, second by Councillor Borneman, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Any discussion? Councillor McCann.
Yes. Ms. Mullen, I thought there was an ATM machine in the Stockey Center. Is this a renewal of a contract, or is this a brand new service and a new vendor?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, there has been an ATM in the Stockey Center lobby for 2 years. This is a new company that has taken over the machines, so they have a new agreement.
Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Keith.
Yes, one quick question. One quick question, Ms. Mullen. I just wonder about the transaction fee. It says here 50 cents will be payable to the town of Parry Sound for every transaction processed. The 50 cents, how is that compared to other organizations or institutions that may be using that machine? How fair is that transaction fee?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, from what I understand, that is common for 50 cents of the transaction to go to the organization that's holding the machine. The previous management company did not remit any transaction fees to us. It wasn't part of the agreement. So we are fortunate that the new company has retro paid us for the last year and will continue to do so every month on the first or second day of the month to direct deposit. Oh. It'll be automatically deposited into the Town of Parry Sound's bank account on the first or second day of every month.
Do we have a transaction fee for that?
I'm sorry, I don't know, actually. Probably.
Yeah, maybe. Any further discussion on this one? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Horn, second by Councillor Sonia, that bylaw number 2018-6837, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council, be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Horn, second by Councillor Sonia, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. All in favor? And that's carried. Prior to adjourning, I'd like to offer the following information to the public regarding the next council meeting. The next regular meeting of council for the Town of Parry Sound is scheduled to take place at 52 Seguin Street in the council chambers located on the top floor. Public access to the building is off Gibson Street. The next regular meeting of council is Tuesday, June 19th, 2018 at 7 p.m. All regular council meetings are held at 7 p.m. on the first and third Tuesday of each month, except January and August, where only one regular meeting is scheduled. Regular and special meetings are now live streamed. Please check news and public notices on our website at www.parrysound.ca for instructions to watch live or see earlier council meetings. Agendas, changes to the council meeting schedule, and notices of special council meetings will be posted on the town's website at www.parrysound.ca under news and public notices prior to a council meeting. The public is able to view an electronic copy of the complete agenda with attachments on the town's website. Just search council calendar and the date of the meeting. Should you wish to receive the combined agenda via email, you may make that request on our website or contact the clerk at the municipal office. The minutes of the council meetings will be posted within 2 days after the council meeting on the town's website and on the bulletin board located in the municipal office entrance. Your TV will continue to air the regular Parry Sound council meetings on Wednesday at 9 p.m. and Saturday at 9:30 a.m. following a regular council meeting. For your TV listings, contact www.yourtv.tv. Don't forget to ensure that you are on the municipal voters list for the upcoming municipal election. Go to Municipal Property Assessment Corporation's MPAC site at www.voterlookup.ca to check. And thank you, everyone, and have a great night.